Oh, what movie was that? Where is it on? So, first off, to get started, to introduce myself, my name's Kelly. I've been practicing Norse Paganism since 1993. I started with a group called, so you can hear me and we can record it. I started with a group called Eagles Kindred of Utah, which was an Austro Alliance kindred, and that was in 1993. 1994, I took the oath of the Gothar, which is the priesthood in our tradition, and I've been doing it ever since. Now, there's something that everyone needs to hear daily, because we live in a culture that tries to push this away. You are perfect, complete, and whole right here and right now. You are perfect. In our culture, there's a concept of what we call gray slavery within our tradition. And what that is where those in power try to control their population by means. And the current means that they use a lot of is Christianity. Not that there's not value in some of their teachings, but the tradition itself was primarily used as a way of control. Now, to get started with what are runes, a lot of people say, I read runes, I do what, you've probably heard that a lot. Runes were first a writing system. They're pictograms. There are different sets of runes. For me, I use what's called the Elder Futhark. It's the oldest version that we have knowledge of. Are you ready for one of the very first things that we find runes on is? A comb. Comb your hair? Anybody ever comb their hair? And you know what it says? Comb. It says comb on it. Depending upon the area where they were at, the rune rows kind of shifted what letters that they used. Like the Latin alphabet. The origin of the Latin alphabet comes from Egypt originally. They had a shorthand version of, instead of using hieroglyphics for everything, there was a shorthand version. And there was this little symbol, and it looked like a cow's head pointing down. Well, as they migrated, the Proto-Europeans migrated, the Latin one got turned upside down and became the letter A. The letter A was originally for cattle. The very first rune is cattle. I've always thought that was kind of an interesting combination. So that's the first use, is we can use runes for writing. There's the Elder Futhark, the Younger Futhark, the Anglo-Saxon Futhark. There's the List Futhark, or what's called the Armenian Futhark. I was also used by this little group with a little mustache man guy, so we don't really pay attention to that. And then there's also the Bloom Futhark. Anybody ever see the book by Ralph Bloom? Ralph Bloom was in the 70s. He came up with his own meanings for the runes. He put them in his own order, and he came up with a blank rune. So it's a modern invention if you're into the reading runes. Blank rune is not in the tradition. So that's the first use. The second use of runes is divination. Anybody ever do divination? Anybody ever read tarot cards? Anybody reads runes? Anybody ever do any rune reading? So you can use runes as a form of divination. The fun thing about divination is that you're able to look beyond. So tarot cards, each card has kind of like a meaning. Well, with runes, they have a meaning, but they go deeper. And how they go together, they have a deeper meanings. I'm not going to really cover divination today because, well, we have limited time. And then also, my idea is I wanted to teach you about Galdr. That's the first. The third use of rune is what's called Galdr. Galdr is an Icelandic word, Icelandic Old Norse word, and it really means singing. Well, I can't sing, but people in Iceland know I don't sing, because it sounds like me molesting a goat or something. I don't. But I do Galdr. And Galdr is actually rune magic. And that's what I'm really going to focus on. And in the Havamal, in the last chat, or the last part of the Havamal, Odin talks about several. The Havamal's a list of sayings from Odin, and it's one of what we use kind of like scripture, but it's a poem. It's an epic poem. And the last part of the Havamal is the origin of the spiritual origin of the runes. And Odin hung from a tree 9 days 9, wounded by spear, sacrificed himself to himself. From that he fell, gathering up the runes. And once he gathered up the runes, he talks about rune spells. And he gives 18 rune spells in that verse, and in the later verse he gives another like 21 rune spells. Rune spells or rune magic is how we can improve our world. Anybody know the origin of the word world? I've always loved this one. So it comes from an Anglo-Saxon word. Anglo-Saxons practice this, they use runes. And it comes from the word weird. Anybody ever show off their weird? I do. Weird is sort of where we all come together energetically. So in Norse tradition, there's what's called Ørlög. Ørlög is kind of like karma. If you ever look at a stream and you see settle, you know how stuff gets washed down a stream and you get layers. If you dig down, you can find layers and layers of stuff. That's Ørlög, but in a spiritual sense. We do stuff, we have experiences, we have our life, and we lay down layers of experience, and that becomes our experience of life, kind of like karma. So if we do something that's kind of a key, well, it's in that Ørlög, and it causes problems that go forward in our life. In Nordic tradition, there's kind of a view of time is relative. It's kind of like the time is non-linear for us. So if we do something now, we can change something in the past. There is things that you can change. Anybody ever see the movie Butterfly Effect with Ashton Kutcher? And he goes back and he changes things in his past. It's kind of like that. We can actually go back and change some things. Most things we don't want to change because, well, that's our life now is what we have. It actually, this saying comes from Emerson, but it's what I am today I purchased with the purse of my own experience. So you go and you get stuff because of life. Now, as I say, we're putting down energy in Ørlög for our personal selves, but we're also doing that for our world. And so as we create, as we do things, as we actively participate in the world, we create our world together. So your actions and my actions come together. I belong to a kindred. A kindred is kind of like, in Norse tradition, is kind of like a coven, but it's a Norse version of it, Norse pagan version of it. When a person comes to us and decides they want to possibly become a member, we have the year and the day idea. So you practice with us for a year, and we practice with you for a year, and we see if our weird just matches your weird. So weird is like we take that on. Right now, last night there was 3 mass shootings. There was a shooting at the Washington Correspondents' Dinner. There are lots of things happening right now because we've actually become a part of the weird of who's leading us. When you join any kind of group, you take on the weird of that group. And so it's up to us to be careful who we join with. Now, within the runes, I use the Elder Futhark. There are 24 runes, and they divide actually out into 8 groups, a group of 3, groups of 8, and they're actually in order. And they actually have sort of a story that that those kind of form. But within that 8, when you're doing rune magic, there are 3 runes that are what are called power, are kind of considered power runes. So whenever I do rune magic, rune spells, I'll use one of those 3 runes. The first rune is Sowilo, which is kind of looks like an S. Are you ready for what Sowilo's tied to? The sun. Are you ready for one of my theories? This is the gospel according to Kelly, my opinion only. If it works for you, fine. If it doesn't, that's fine. Northern traditions, the sun is feminine, the moon is masculine. In southern tradition, or in northern traditions, the sun is feminine, the moon is masculine. In southern traditions, the moon is feminine and the sun is masculine. And I've been thinking about that for a long time. And this is my theory. As I say, it's my theory. If it works for you, great. If it doesn't. In the southern areas, that sun's freaking hot. It can kill you. And your respite is the moon. The moon, when it gets dark, it gets cool. It's your kind of your air conditioning. You can sleep, you can rest, you can feel at ease. You're nurtured by that moon. In the northern tradition, at night, when that moon's out, it's freaking cold. That moon's going to kill you. That sun is your respite, is your warmth, is your savior. So the feminine is that nurturing energy. The moon is that masculine energy in the northern tradition. And I think it's because it's what is the most uncomfortable and what can destroy you in the negative, the more, I don't want to use the word negative. It's the more masculine energy. So that's my theory. But on with the story. The first rune, Sowilo. It's the sun. It powers our life. Without the sun, if the sun went away, it blew up or something zapped it out of our area, and we were left without it, we would die. The sun provides us with food. It provides us with energy. It provides us with life. It's that energy that powers everything. The second rune that is a where is it? Is a power rune is Kenaz. Now, Kenaz is kind of looks like a greater than symbol, or lesser than. I never can keep those apart. I went to elementary school in Utah, and high school, and yeah. So on with story. A little bit of college too, but we won't go into the detail on that. It represents knowledge and the power of knowledge. It's connected with the torch, fire. So it's the fire rune. So the sun is the more gentlest of the power runes. The next is Kenaz. And the third is Thurisaz. Thurisaz kind of looks like the greater sign with a lion on it. The thing that's about Thurisaz, and what's so interesting about Thurisaz as a power rune, it's lightning. So you have sun, fire, and lightning. Also, it's tied with Thor, Thor, because he's the god considered tied to lightning. I don't want to use the say someone's a god of. In Northern tradition, the gods are more than just like Odin's the god of wisdom. He's a lot more than that. He has a whole personality. He's a whole being. All the gods are whole beings. It just like if I need healing, I'll go to Odin and Frey because those are my two patrons. But I'm sorry. Those three runes. So whenever I do rune magic, I'll choose one of those runes. Generally, I'll use Sowilo, which is the more gentler of them. Most rune magic, I use 3 runes. So I'll use the power rune. Now, there are several runes in the rune system. Now, if you go onto Facebook, to my page that's on Facebook, it's called Austro Utah. I actually have posted the 6 prosperity runes. So they're there. The first prosperity rune that I use it a lot is Fehu. Now Fehu is really an interesting rune in that, again, it's the first rune of the rune rose. It represents cattle, but it's a lot more. It represents breath, the in-breath and the out-breath. If you ever see the rune Fehu, it's a line with 2 lines coming up to one of the directions. Oh, when you're writing with runes, you can write in both directions. And so what they would do is they would point the direction you're reading. So the first line you would read this way, the second line you'd read this way, the third line you'd read this way. So they would go back and forth if it was on a written page. And that's how you could tell is the direction that the arms are. Fehu is one of my favorite runes in that it represents movable wealth. Money! For our ancestors, money was represented by cattle because you could exchange that cow for things. Money is things. So it was also the breath is also anything that sustained you. Food was considered part of that. So if I'm doing a rune spell, I'll go ahead and I'll use Fehu if it's for prosperity. So I have Fehu, I'll have Sowilo. Now that leaves one more rune. And are you ready for that? You can use whatever rune that is what you're working on. There's one rune called Wunyo. Wunyo is joy, happiness. It's contentment. It's that when you're at cold in the winter and you're in your home and you have all your food, all your needs met and you're just there with your family and then you have that warm glow. That's Fehu. That's Wunyo. Othala is another rune that I have a strong connection with. Othala is The rune, it kind of looks like a box with two legs coming down from it. And Valhalla is your home, your place, your roots, your ancestry, your anchor. And the thing that's great about Valhalla, it's, if you're working on a prosperity, it's your anchor. Your sense of well-being is anchored to your place, and that's that anchor. Yira is another one that is popular to use for, and it represents harvest. In fact, anybody ever have heard of the word year? We get the word year from Yira, which is the rune. It kind of looks like two greater than symbols that interlock. And I as I say, I have posted most of these on our Facebook page. So if you do have any questions after today, you can contact us. Just message me. I'll message you back. So, Galdr. Are you ready to do a Galdr? So Galdr is singing of the runes. And if I'm doing a healing or prosperity or something someone needs, I'll do what's called Galdr. And if anybody would like to join me in doing the Galdr, you can come up and join me up here. I don't bite. What I use my gander. This is my gander. What is a gander? Like a wand. Also, the same word is used for spear. And I have different ones for different purpose or different things I use. This is a gander too. It has all the runes on it. This was made by a really dear friend of mine for me, Rex. And it has all the runes. I got to tell you about this story. I love this story. I have a friend. We had one of my students, and this student was in a wheelchair. She was disabled because of when she was 16, she stole a car and was running up Cottonwood Canyon and crashed it severely, and she broke her back. She had a really rough time as a teen, and I got working with her in her 30s, and she finally passed away in her 40s. But she made several things for me, and she would make several things, and one of the things that she made all these things, and she left off I looked at it, and it was missing a rune. It's like, do you realize you were missing this certain rune? She says, I was copying it directly from a page, and the page she was using to copy it from, it was definitely on it. She did another item. She left off exactly the same rune, just disappeared, was not there. And she did this like 4 or 5 different times. She made different craft items that she put runes on, and she would leave off that same rune. And it's like, we need to work on that situation. And the rune that she left off was Uruz, which is strength. And because of what she went through and all of her issues, she had an issue with feeling strong. She didn't feel strong. And so whenever she did anything, she just could not see the rune Uruz because of strength. She felt that she didn't have the strength. So on with story. So what I do for Galdr is I do a rune chanting, and I'll use what I'm trying to do. And since we're doing prosperity, I would choose Fehu, Sowilo, and the last rune that I would choose for today, because of where we're at, is Wunyo. Wunyo is happiness. Kind of looks like a P, pointy P. And Wunyo is that is joy, that sense of comfort. So if you would just close your eyes or get comfortable, I'm going to go ahead and do a rune Galdr for prosperity. Fehu, 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 Sowilo, 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 Wunyo, 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 Redo! Hail the gods. Any questions? I know this was a very shortened class. Normally I do things longer. I could talk about this stuff for hours and hours and a half. But is there any questions that anybody have about what? And this is just a very, very small scratch. Yes.
Where do we find you? Oh, thank you so much. Where do we find you outside of the Pagan Festival?
So, Facebook is my main link. Also, I'm on Instagram, and it's Astru Utah. The word ASATRU, and then the word Utah. I knew I could have joined the U's together, but I didn't, so it's Astru Utah. Asatru is the word, is a compound word that came Icelandic, and it comes, asa, A-S-A, is the word for God. True is being faithful to the gods. And then, well, we live in Utah. I'm a Utahard, I admit it. I've been living in Utah all my life. My ancestors were here in Utah since there was such a thing. Actually, one of my ancestors were in the valley before Brigham Young. So, yeah. I'm very much from Utah. So, and then we do our rituals in Ogden. I live in Ogden. Anybody ever been to Ogden? I live right off of 25th Street, or just a block and a half from 25th Street on Lincoln. So, and we do most of our rituals at my home. I have an historic home built in 1918, so it's older than me, just a little bit. But any other questions? Anything else I can cover? Well, if you have any questions, or if you want to learn more, as again, Facebook. And then at 3 p.m., I will be doing what's called bloat. Bloat is our ritual for Northern tradition. And I'll be doing that, and that will be in the Heritage Building. They kind of messed up on the reservation deal on the website, so we're letting everybody in. The way we do bloat, we can have lots of people. So, and I'm doing a Walpurgis Nacht. Walpurgis is the Germanic name for Freya. So it's a Freya's bloat. So we'll be there, and I'll be that at 3. So thank you very much. And you guys have a wonderful day. Make sure you hang around. There's going to be stuff all day. It's an incredible event. Also, one of my dearest old friends I haven't seen in years is here. So she's doing the maypole. So I am